Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I will be talking rapidly to say everything that is in this talk. So, it's January 2024. I mustered the courage to ask my doctor if she'd help me pursue an FASD diagnosis. And she said, "What exactly are you referring to when you say FASD?" I said, "I'm referring to fetal alcohol spectrum disorders." It's February of 2024. I'm sitting in my car outside therapy trying to remember why I'm here, why I'm there, and the clear thoughts I know I had are just inaccessible. So I sit there trying to reverse engineer my own brain, like, okay, where was my brain when I scheduled this appointment? Watching the clock, about to walk into a room where I'm supposed to explain myself in 5 minutes and can't. Plans disappearing, thoughts evaporating mid-sentence, entire systems I built for myself just not holding. And I used to have words for that. Character defect, fear, self-centeredness, because that's the language I had. Hi, my name is Madeline, and I'm an alcoholic. Anyone do the thing? I got sober at 23 and again at 28. And I did what you're supposed to do. I showed up, I listened, I took suggestions. I built a life inside anonymous, miraculous, humbly consistent rooms that teach people like me how to live. And I want to be clear, I love these spaces. They save lives. I wouldn't be here without them. But there was always something off. For years, I would say, it felt like I could read and write, but had some kind of disability on that level that made me literally unable to finish certain steps without more help. That was dismissed as fear again and again. I was told, just do it, it'll be fine. And then I'd finally do it, and even they would have to admit, like, okay, yeah, that wasn't quite it. Just a perpetual mystery. A diagnosis I kept getting closer to, explaining with more and more precision while being laughed at and lectured over and over and over again. The hamster wheel, tornado, Groundhog Day reality that I have been swimming in my entire life. I fought hard to uncover what my disability was and make my way into this room here for a credible explanation that matched my own so closely. Knowledge about my brain is great until the room that you're in says that knowledge is supposed to be set aside. And I've experienced similar challenges in neurodivergent spaces too, where some of us are denied access to other identities we clinically meet criteria for. That gatekeeping has kept me from being part of those communities. So I asked for help. I went to my doctor, as is so often advised. I said, I know it's an umbrella term and not a diagnosis on its own. I learned I have a lot of symptoms and can confirm I was exposed to alcohol prenatally. We didn't know that you could have this disability if you didn't have FAS. And she said, fetal alcohol syndrome is not my area of expertise, and this is usually diagnosed at birth or early in childhood. If, in all caps, you did have that, even a very, extremely mild form, there is no way to prove that. Help me understand, what are you wanting to gain out of attaching this diagnosis to yourself? Which is offensive on so many levels to so many people. So prenatal alcohol exposure causes permanent brain damage. And if no one that you trust ever says that out loud, then that fact does not function in your life. So the situation is that the professionals don't know, the environments don't know, and the person living with it struggles to explain it. Because how do you explain something so complex that affects your ability to explain things and is so activating for the people that you are explaining it to? So you just move through the world as yourself, and people think there's no way, or someone would have caught it. Meanwhile, you're working so hard, trying to figure out what to do with the 2 hours of good brain time you get in a day. And people are like, have you tried a gratitude list? And you're like, yeah, I have. Most adults with FASD aren't being shaped in clinics or research settings. They're being shaped in everyday environments they can afford to return to again and again, shaping how they think, behave, and understand themselves. There's a saying in recovery, don't go to the hardware store looking for oranges. It's a very useful phrase. For some of us, however, there are no stores that sell oranges, just different kinds of hardware stores. And then something started to click. People will disclose contributing to or ignoring an alcohol-exposed pregnancy, and they're met with compassion. But no one just says, hey, part of making that right might include learning what the impact of that actually was. So we have millions of people around the world working programs about alcohol and a condition caused by alcohol, often, not always, existing in the same rooms and insisting they're completely separate. Outside issue. Outside where? like several towns over, or on the front porch, and it's just like been there the whole time. Hi, my name is Madeline, and I have FASD. Alcohol is a teratogen. The word teratogen comes from the Greek word teres, and teres means monster, but also a portent, something abnormal or extraordinary, a signal, something that demands interpretation, not to be judged, but to reveal, predict, to carry meaning for those who are willing to see it. And gen means produced by. So if alcohol is a teratogen, it produces teres. What does that make us? And look, we are not just impacted by the multitude of contributing factors around alcohol, reproductive care, and disability. We are evidence of them all. And when a society feels like it has to see itself to see you, it affects their interpretation. It moralizes you, it projects onto you, instead of asking, what am I not understanding here? Please don't mistake my wordplay for permission to romanticize disability, but to my fellow self-advocates, know that language can be creative and empowering, and how we are perceived most of the time has very little to do with us. We are a vast constellation of teratogems, if you will. Formed under pressure, misread, valuable, not in spite of what made us different, but because of who we are. So here's the deal. So many strong support structures already exist. They're well attended and scaffolding communities every day. They're just missing one basic fact. Alcohol exposure before birth causes permanent brain damage. Permanent means lifelong. So when you have the chance in regular random life situations, please say the thing. Get creative, say it awkward, say it boldly, say it however you can and wherever you can. Because right now, people are disappearing inside systems that work really well, just not yet for them. Everyday environments are where even the idea of a diagnosis for an adult can begin or be smashed. We are social creatures. So whether what's common knowledge is research-backed or pop psychology, FASD-informed, or pseudoscience, what gets normalized in peer groups is what enjoys the privilege of evolution. Self-advocates and the full spectrum of people we interact with in daily life play such a significant role when it comes to diagnosis. And my hope is that more adults looking for answers will find their way here to learn from this amazing community, just like I did, for their own benefit as well as ours. People like me don't need all new everything for FASD right now. We need each other, and we need the systems that scaffold our lives to know that we are already in the room. Thank you.